10% of the hydro, how come we only get 9% if we're paid for it? Where does the rest of it go?
Well, our load is roughly, our peak load is roughly 620 megawatts, which doesn't mean a lot. Don Pedro for us is what, 63 megawatts. So roughly, it's 10% of the load. But because of the way that it's situated and the way that we use it, typically it's only about 8 to 9% of what we can generate. So 60 megawatts out of 620.
Okay.
So in other words, it's just not enough. We've got a bigger load than Pedro.
I see that there's a 120-day comment period. Where do you go to make your comments? Is it on
Again,
the website?
yes, all that information's on the website, and when we get to, again, early May, there'll be notification of the formal meeting that will kick off the stakeholder process, and any documents, any comments can be filed directly on with the FERC website, and the FERC website also will have links to all of the comments and different documents involved in the process, and that website is also on your resource list that you have.
I have a question.
Okay, let me start here, then go there, and then go there.
I've heard it's gonna cost a whole lot of money to get relicensed, and I don't know the number, but it's millions. And why?
Well, we've thrown out a number somewhere right around $15 million to relicense the whole project. I think that number's going to go a lot higher than that. Primarily the reason for the dollars is because there's numerous studies that we need to undertake. Studies for botany, Native Americans, fish, river, soil, fauna, all kinds of studies that we need to conduct. Also too, there'll be mitigation measures that we'll have to implement. Don't know what those are at this point, but it may be the purchasing of additional land. That may be of restoration of some habitat in terms of additional native vegetation, whatever the case may be. These things tend to grow exponentially in terms of cost. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that number will go somewhere between $50 and $75 million by the time we're done. But that's what it's there for. All the studies that need to be taken, all the consultants you need to pay, the process, and also the mitigation measures that will ultimately come out of that. Well, yeah, there's huge attorney fees.
Is that our cost, or is that Turlock and us?
I think I'm looking at the total project cost we've identified is 15 for the total project. That includes Turlock and us. I think it's going to be higher than that. But remember, the split roughly is 60 some odd, 30 some odd. So our share would be 30 some odd % of that total number. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it is a long process, as I keep emphasizing, 5+ years, so that is gonna cost. It's also gonna be a contentious process for all the reasons Alan had mentioned earlier. And so the fact that there's gonna be a whole lot of parties involved and many issues about flow that we're going to have to be debating about, make it increase the number of studies, which increases the cost.
Just to give you an idea, the last time that, I got to go 2 more places, I'll come later. The last time that we undertook a FERC negotiation, which was in the 90s, which was a reopener, the Don Pedro, I didn't finish the entire story. Remember I said that when we started the project, 3 CFS was targeted. Well, as part of the FERC order, we were supposed to then conduct studies for a 20-year period. We did so, came back with that information in the 90s, and ultimately sat down to negotiate the deal. We were in this room, and there were probably this many people at the table negotiating the deal. And they would come and they'd go, and folks would hang out their shingle, and more folks would come, but it was all to get a piece of that, a piece of the action. Okay, there was one back here.
Each arrow that you said was at the target, I presume there's a monetary value to each one of those that's costing us money.
The focus on John, the focus that I've been focusing on the arrows is water. It's going to cost you water, which ultimately will cost you money, which ultimately will cost, yeah. But I've been focused on the water aspect of it.
You said you're fighting a lot of those, as you call them, arrows, for keep our water. Are we fighting against whoever it is that says that the hydroelectric power is not green energy? I mean, are we fighting that fight, or are we just letting them go?
No, we're fighting that fight too. We have fought that fight since the very beginning when they declared hydro is not green. We've been fighting that fight. We just simply have been unsuccessful. There's others now that are going to take up the mantle and take up the challenge. And I'm hoping that they'll be far more successful than we were from that standpoint. But we continue to fight. We continue to work with legislators to get the law changed. But I will tell you that it'll be difficult to do. I mean, I'm just going to be right out because of the money and because of the way the system works. It's going to be difficult to do.
Is that fight on the state or local level?
State.
I mean, state or federal?
State, right now.
Good evening, Alan. I'd like to know where I could pick up the comprehensive analysis of the authority given in the United States Constitution to authorize a FERC permit.
Say that again.
I'd like to know where I could pick up a copy of this report. The comprehensive analysis of the authority given in the U.S. Constitution to authorize a FERC permit.
Well, Counselor, you're the lawyer.
You know, that's a mouthful, and I don't know exactly how to address it, other than constitutionally we do, what we do focus on is the requirements under the Federal Power Act, and the authorities that create the Energy Regulatory Commission. So that's as best as I can do for you offhand.
It kind of goes back to this concept of these are waters of the United States. And if you look at where FERC is structured within the government, they're under, I think it's the Department of Commerce. And so there's interstate commerce that's supposedly involved, and so they're protecting the waters of the U.S. to allow entities like us and TID to own and operate the facility, but they can take it back anytime they want because they have this authority under that Federal Power Act, I think 1908 or something like that, which is now morphed into what has become FERC. But it's this concept that nobody owns the water, everybody owns it, and the United States government can impose these mandatory conditions on this process. You were talking about the 15 million, the Department of Water Resources, I think, is still going through the relicensing for the heart of their system. They've spent upwards of 60 million plus, and they're not done.
Well, the other thing about the 15 million, of course, is that's just to get the new license. The new license, we hope, will be for in excess of 30 years, if we're lucky, 40 years. But in order to get the longer-term license, you have to put more into it. And more into it means more dollars invested in the project itself, redoing the powerhouse or putting a new aspect to the project. So we're looking at, hopefully 30, hopefully longer, but that 15 million doesn't include any additional or new facilities to improve the project, to extend the life of that license.
So we got a 50. I have to go right back there, then I'll come back to you, okay? Yeah, your turn.
Hi, thanks. I'm Jessie Rader. I'm with the Tuolumne River Trust, and
Our favorite folks, by
yeah.
the way.
So I'm here to just provide a slightly different perspective on some of this, although I hope not totally oppositional. I think we're looking forward to working with you all on the relicensing. I know you've set up a meeting next Monday that we're looking forward to sitting down and do that and really starting to talk about it. I want to make sure that we present a little bit of the other side of the picture in terms of the health of the lower Tuolumne River and the salmon. As well as just the health of the lower Tuolumne River. From our perspective, the lower Tuolumne River is really, it's almost dying right now. There are times in the summer when you can walk across it and barely get your knees wet. There are places rather, and times. There are a lot of the fish in the river aren't safe for human consumption because of mercury levels. It's listed as an impaired water body in the Water Act. And the salmon population really, as you mentioned, have crashed. We're talking about, on the orders of hundreds. When back in, recently in the 1940s, we had about 130,000 salmon coming back to the lower Tuolumne. And then, 10 years ago, maybe 20,000. And then, certainly it's not just the Tuolumne River. Salmon have crashed all over California. But we are looking at really low numbers right now. And I think that's why predation has become such a problem. When you're talking about having only a couple of hundred fish and anything that's killing them is a big problem all of a sudden. But historically, predation isn't the biggest problem. Every salmon that that spawn, they lay something like 5,000 eggs, only one of those ever returns to spawn in normal circumstances. So yeah, when you're talking about 200 fish, predation is a problem, but predation is sort of the standard in healthy ecosystems. So I just want to put out some of that. Meanwhile, I want to say that I think we at the Tuolumne River Trust, consider ourselves to be members of the community who want a local, healthy agricultural economy. And we hope that there can be some win-win solutions found in all of this. We've identified a huge number of arrows pointing at you, and I don't think we're holding all of those, but but we don't want to be throwing arrows either. And so I think what we're interested in is looking for some win-win solutions where perhaps there could be some more water in the river, and farmers get to maintain their production at the same levels. And I wonder, I guess my question is MID putting any resources or thinking about putting any resources towards other solutions like conservation, or one example off the top of my head could be charging a little more for water, putting that extra money in a fund to help farmers pay for technology that could allow them to use less water, so maybe they pay a little more per unit of water, but overall their bill doesn't go up, something like that. So anyways, thanks for letting me
You're
have
gonna
a
pay us a
phone
little
here.
more for our crops?
So, yeah.
You're gonna pay more for our crops,
Yeah.
so we can pay MID more water.
Or I hope, I hope that I think that's it. Yeah. Thank you.
Let me answer that to some degree. Let me just say this, that the Department of California Fish and Game back in the 1800s, 1880s, 1890s, started introducing predator fish. And they're the ones that put the bass in there. They're the ones that have caused the problem. And ultimately has generated bass fishing tournaments, and I believe there's almost 2 or 3 a week in the Delta now. It's a fairly, it's a couple $1 million industry. I guess our issue with that, let's take care of those things first before we start putting more water down the river. When you talk about there were plenty of salmon in the day, yeah, there weren't the predator fish to the degree that they were today. And furthermore, too, if you look at history and you look at, without Don Pedro there were plenty of times when people tell me it wasn't there, but some of the folks tell me that you can walk across the Tuolumne River and you come up to your ankles. That's how much water was coming down the river in the summertime period. So there wasn't much water down there, yet there was a very vibrant population from that, fishing population from that standpoint. So, no, we look to work with you. I mean, you're our closest neighbors and friends. We have a seat at the table for you.
Thank you.
Bill?
Alan, just to clarify, the relicensing is caused by the fact that you want to continue to use the dam for electrical output, not because you want to use it for irrigation.
Correct. Correct.
Now, one of the statements made earlier was that the previous licensing was for 50 years, and that's the max you get on a general licensing. Why are we looking for a 30-year instead of trying to go for the 50-year?
We are not looking for a 30-year. We would like to get a 50-year license. What FERC is at least saying today is for you to get a 50-year license, and they used to give out 50 years. Our first license was a 50-year license, is you have to make a significant investment in those facilities, huge capital investment to get that 50-year license, which would mean either adding a 5th generator or a complete rewind of all the units up there. Don't know whether we'll end up doing that or not from that perspective.